This is just an excerpt from a full episode. If you enjoyed what you hear here, go check out other full episodes, either on YouTube or as part of the podcast feed. Enjoy! Moving on to white-collar crime news. Australia, the only country with the linguistic courage to still use the word "girt" in its national anthem. But within that linguistic avatar of punching a Nazi in the dick, there is a party who is brave enough to stand up to big business. The Greens. The Greens have created an amendment to an anti-money laundering counter-terrorism financing bill which was debated recently. Labor, the Coalition and the crossbench senators will have to decide, are they owned by the powerful property accountancy and legal industries or not? Nathan Lynch, a financial crime intelligence expert at Thomson Reuters, said that Australia has become a sink for the illicit wealth of some of the Pacific region's worst kleptocrats, and it should horrify all Australians. And as an economic strategy, well, it seems this may be the way to go. The majority of tax havens look exactly like Australia. Warm islands with no possible way to otherwise sustain themselves as an economy. And as we all know, Australia has taken a hard left turn away from the only thing capable of keeping it afloat at the moment, coal. We are Daniel Plainview, and this is There Will Be Coal, baby!
I drink your milkshake!
But we have taken the radical step of moving away from coal at the equally radical pace of the next 30 years. Look, I look forward to celebrating my 70th birthday and subsequent retirement party by dying, knowing that the world has finally been stripped of the menace of Australian coal. As I fade away into nothingness, the weight of a generational burden not so much lifted, but shifted onto the next generation. It does make life much simpler. We did toy with the idea of slipping into weapons manufacturing, hoping for that late-in-life redemption story, like Tony Stark. But we instead bought 12 submarines for $225 billion. And when none of them could defeat the menace of paperwork, let alone an alien armada, we got sad that we will never find Harold Holt at the bottom of the sea and make a major motion picture starring Harold from Neighbours. Australia has received numerous warnings over its failure to clamp down on money laundering, including from the OECD, the Organisation for Economic Cooperation and Development, in 2017, and the International Monetary Fund in 2019. Warnings I look forward to us adhering to just as soon as we finish building our armada of submarines. One step at a time, eh? The government can only do so much at any given point, and it is very much stuck on this submarine thing. And now we have Machine, sent back from the future to assassinate John Connor by killing the human race in its entirety by refusing to follow through with a green lead recovery. Matthias Cormann, who has come under fire for promising a green lead recovery, but only if he gets the OECD top job when he leaves the coalition. Seems he is a very advanced robot, as he is not destroyed by the logical paradox that the coalition government used every opportunity it could to undermine every initiative to tackle climate change, even seemingly to revel in the possibility of it happening, as it will mean a steady stream of cheap, fruit-picking labour.
It was a good meeting.
Where was it? Was
The title was anything. We were about to be, have water lapping at your doors.
And that he was finance minister in a government that failed to act on money laundering despite warnings from the very same OECD who he wants a job at. Perhaps the argument would be that he's the perfect person for the job, in the same way that the FBI or the CIA or other government agencies take on people like hackers and other non-government criminals to undermine the very criminal enterprises that they were propping up. Only one mere arrest ago. He has an ability to dodge warnings, much like Catherine Zeta-Jones training for a heist. It is a pretty devious way to get a job. Who actually knows better than Matthias what he has done, step by step, to avoid the suffocating red tape of not aiding criminals in their endeavours to not help pay for public services that they themselves benefit from? Nathan Lynch says, financial crime is a global catastrophe, with some $2 trillion a year being laundered, of which only 1% is detected and seized. And on top of that, huge percentage of taxpayer funding is being increasingly loudly laundered through grants to sports teams in safe liberal seats. But like the PM and the Treasurer billing taxpayers almost $5,000 for a private jet to future face of the Murdoch empire and body that the mind of Rupert Murdoch will inhabit when he finally manages the hypnotherapy brain transplant technique that we saw in Get Out, Lachlan Murdoch's Christmas party. You know, sort of like that event. And the story that seems to be going on longer than the peacekeeping mission in the Middle East, greedy Gladys and her backing band of uncorruptibles. Premier Berejiklian has come out in front of any accusations of hypocrisy and thus any possibilities of blowing up the logic circuits of her heartless robots that form the coalition by mounting this incredible saying, the quiet part out loud argument that pork barreling is not illegal. I mean, it's always a bad time when your only legal recourse that you have left is what is known as the Air Bud defense.
You check in your rule book, but you won't find anything in there that says a dog can't play.
He's right. Ain't no rule said the dog can't play basketball.
Well, there isn't a rule that says that you can't do it. But let me put it to you, Gladys. Your politicians were so preoccupied with whether or not they could, they didn't stop to think if they should. Classic Jurassic Park problem. I mean, I have a theory as to why they have failed to crack down on money laundering. A little closer. A little closer. What's that? What's that? You can't? Oh, okay. Well, you stay there then. I'll come closer. I think that the New South Wales government is laundering cartel money. I don't know which cartel, as we are rather remote out this way, but likely it's just oil and coal cartels. Occam's razor is usually the best to shave with, which would explain the shredding of documents at the centre of New South Wales Premier Gladys Berejiklian's grant controversy being recovered by a forensic data search team. Either that or Underbelly is getting desperate for new spin-offs, although if it does go ahead, I suspect this will quickly be defunded of any and all Australian support for not being on Team Australia. I mean, how can you not jump to the conclusion that they are laundering cartel money when a secret report has brought to light that a highly contaminated block of land near Parramatta bought by the New South Wales government for $53.5 million has been found to be worth between -3 and -7 million dollars. Not to mention the overspending of the $27 million on land worth only $3 million on land for the Western Sydney Airport, and that the New South Wales government buying land for 3 times its value for a light rail project. The insulting part is that they aren't even trying to be subtle. At least Walter White went to the trouble of setting up that bug spray business to launder his vast amounts of cash. And if I've learnt nothing else from Ozark, construction is a great way to falsify spending records. I mean, it's certainly less suspicious than giving your oldest and most supportive mouthpiece, Rupert Murdoch's Foxtel, a $10 million federal grant without a plan whatsoever on how to spend it. that wouldn't be suspicious at all. I mean, I applied for a federal grant. I mean, not for this, of course, don't worry. I know the government won't pay for this. I mean, I had a budget, I had a whole plan, I had everything. Maybe I need to be angrier towards anyone who isn't the Liberal government in order to get some of that sweet, sweet government money. I mean, what values do I need to compromise to be considered? Let's see, let's look over my notes here. I certainly shouldn't mention that Michael West Media has stated in a Senate inquiry in 2015 that News Limited was identified as Australia's #1 tax risk. Let's cross that out there. And best not mention that there is no sign of the government's $30 million grant to Foxtel in the accounts of this particular Foxtel entity. That'd definitely get me on the naughty list, so don't you go snitching now. Let's see, best get rid of this right here that clarifies that the latest economic updates confirm Australia's economy is declining at an ever-increasing rate under current policies that won't play well. That the Morrison government is consolidating its place in history as Australia's worst ever economic manager and among the worst in the developed world. Better get rid of that. I need that grant money. So, this is just in. Yeah, this is breaking news, guys. Breaking news. This is just in. The Greens are causing fires, and Labor has mismanaged the coronavirus quarantine in all states, even the ones run by Liberal premiers, because in those states it's actually deep state actors who are just trying to make the Liberals look bad, who are compromising the gold standard held by the New South Wales Liberals. Is that enough? Can I get that grant money now? See? It's all gone.